There are questions that we have had to tackle in the modern world, particularly in the Western world, that I think would scarcely have occurred to previous generations. Things that have been taken as sacrosanct and unchangeable since the start of recorded history and even before have been challenged over recent decades. Now, what would have been a fairly straightforward question in previous times, that is, what is a woman, it now has Western leaders paralysed to give an answer. What was understood as marriage between a man and a woman has been changed by governments, and that age-old understanding is seen to be just out of date in a modern technological age. But have you ever considered whether it's actually within the gift of governments or parliaments to change things like this? That brings us to our second question: who makes the rules? Now, we know that there are what are called universal laws, the natural laws, for example. When I was at school, we studied these in science classes. There's the law of gravity, discovered by Sir Isaac Newton in the 17th century. Now, we cannot change it, nor can any government. Parliament could actually redefine gravity to its heart's content, but it wouldn't make a whit of difference to the universe. You would still fall off a cliff if you walked over the edge. These things are all part of the physical universe that God created at the very beginning. For by Him were all things created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by Him and for Him. Colossians chapter 1 verse 16. But God did not just create a physical universe. The verse just quoted refers to visible and invisible things. John chapter 4 verse 24 tells us that God is a spirit, and there is a spiritual side to this creation which is not visible to our eyes. And there is a moral side to this creation, something else that is not visible, but very much a part of this creation in which we live. We are, in fact, moral creatures with a sense of right and wrong, with a sense of good and bad. Now, where did that sense come from? Well, it originated in our Creator. Now, if you've ever bought an electrical appliance or a mobile phone or a computer, and I'm sure you have, you'll know that it comes with an instruction manual. The instructions are not part of the equipment, but they're essential for safe and proper operation of the equipment. Now, who determines that proper operation? And who makes up, who writes down the instructions? Well, the answer is obvious. It is the manufacturer. It's not for the equipment to determine its own operating instructions. So not only does God own this world, but it is in the gift of God to determine what are the fit and proper rules for us to live by. Indeed, they are, in general terms, hardwired into us. The Bible tells us that the work of the law, that is God's law, is written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts the meanwhile accusing or else excusing. Romans chapter 2 verse 15. The fundamental moral laws of the universe are God's laws. The Word of God is the authority by which our behaviour is judged, not the constantly changing opinions of our fellow man. The Bible tells us, "Forever, O Lord, thy word is settled in heaven." Psalm 119, verse 89. God's standard is as unchangeable as Himself. It is the perfect standard against which we will be judged, against which we will all give account. So, how are we getting on with God's rules? How do we measure up to the divine standard? I think that we will all know the answer to that. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Romans chapter 3 verse 23. And that is a problem for us all. It's a problem for me. It's a problem for you.